just are amazed, God, every day at your person. We are thankful that we can come in the middle of the week and just let our hearts and minds dwell on that. May we just hear, listen, and for your function, God, through your Holy Spirit in us, God, tonight, so that we can walk faithfully, God, in the calling that you've had for us, God. We just pray. I pray for each family here represented. They'll be blessed, God. That you protect their homes, God. You'll bless their homes and let them make an impact on the community around them. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Well, it's a treat being here. I met Pastor Horton actually because as I visited Canada to start this business, I would each time email or call a church. I just go through Google and find this is Oakville, Ontario. And I'd say, hey, maybe if I'm town, I can go to that church. And I think I had 10 emails and 10 phone calls out total, phone calls and emails, and I had never had a return response. Hey, this is Don Bloom. I'm visiting the area. I'd like to come by and I see you on Sunday, Wednesday night service. I'll stop in if I'm able to. The first person to respond was Pastor Horton. And he happened to be from an area not too far from where I live, in Winder, Georgia. So I just said, that's amazing that somebody responded. And two, we were already connected and we actually knew some of the same people. In fact, a couple of my sons we're going to the church that the family knew. That encouraged me because part of our mission in business is to make an impact, a lifetime impact on everybody we touch. So as we do things, that's just in business, we try to impact employees, customers, competitors, vendors, bankers, whoever, for their lifetime. And that lifetime is eternal. And so from an eternal perspective. So when I'm able to get in front of a group, I just like to look around because everybody has their own story. And here as I look around, and it's totally different. And I always like to reflect on my story and just how I grew up in Western New York, an atheist, from a family that never went to church and ended up in Athens, Georgia. So this is not a Western New York accent, this is an Athens, Georgia accent. And didn't believe in God, chastised those that didn't believe in God. But we were just talking about God's creation. One day, the scales went off, and I looked in the mountains of North Carolina and said, there had to be a creator for this. That and watching a football game led me to the Lord. Was trying to learn sports, started playing football. You could watch football back then only 2 times a week. You didn't have ESPN and all these sports channels. And this guy was holding up a sign, John 3:16. So I turned to my mom and I said, what is John 3:16? 4 downs to get a first down, 10 yards to get a first down. Inside linebacker, outside linebacker. I'm learning the whole thing. And she said, I think it's in the Bible. And that was kind of the end of the conversation. But the next day, she bought me a Bible. So that guy holding up a sign at a football game led me to the Lord indirectly. So I'm always amazed at that story. My father never gave me direction. And when you don't have any direction, you usually go the wrong direction. I found out. So in my youth, I was led down a path of no direction in life. So his legacy was very difficult in that he passed away 2 years ago and actually had a sweet time right at the end before he died. But that legacy of no direction caused a lot of hurt and caused a lot of difficulties in the direction of life. So I praise God that I was able to see my need for salvation and to call upon God for salvation through His Son. But He did leave me a legacy of hard work. I tell people in Western New York, kind of like here, I'm going to say even worse, every summer we cut wood on Saturdays. Every summer we cut wood. And it makes sense because it gets very cold and you need to get the fire going. And we snowmobile, we come in, and we sit by the hot fire, and it was glorious. Actually, it was just beautiful. So we moved to Athens, Georgia, where it snows maybe once every 3 years, never gets above 40. And guess what we did every summer? On Saturdays, we cut wood. I have no idea why. My brother and I despised it at the time, but it taught us hard work. So that legacy learning hard work. And that's one of the areas of my life that I cherish now, because it's very easy for me to work hard, and I've been able to pass that on to my children. So it's funny how that legacy stayed in me because of my father. And everybody in here may have the same thing. They're may have a legacy from what their father left. Or they may not have a father in their life and that left another legacy. But you're here today for some reason. And so God has brought us all together. I want to really talk tonight. It's funny when you asked me to come, I'm like, I don't know if you're going to want to hear this, but God's really been working in my life on some things that was just perfect for me to talk about. Maybe not to hear, but to talk about. And let me say as a prayer request, my son, I've been married 30 years to my wife Joy. I actually saw her in middle school. Now, I'm not going to say I said I want to marry her, but I was very intrigued with her. But she was a believer, and she had nothing to do with me until I became a Christian, which was very strong. But we dated, courted in high school, and we have 12 children. We have 6 boys, 6 girls. The oldest is 26. He had to escape China in the last couple of days. And I don't even know if he's released this in his newsletter yet. In the middle of the night, Seoul, Korea, and South Korea, and then back to the U.S. because the police had shut down their church, and then we're investigating him. So it happened really quick, and sometimes in life we have uncertain times. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So it was good to see him and his wife, Nancy. He's the oldest, 26. I've got Mercy, that's 5. And we have tried to raise them up in the Lord. We've been very focused on trying to teach discipline and obedience. But we've discovered as we've gotten older and our children have gotten younger, we've kind of slacked off a little bit. So Mercy gets away with more than Cannon did. At least Cannon tells me that. So don't pray for him and Nancy. They are now trying to figure out what to do next because all their possessions are in China. They just had to get out of town in the middle of the night. Perspective. When I look at everybody in here, I don't know your perspective. I don't really know what your worldview is related to how you live your life and the impact you make from that. So we're going to look at some scripture tonight that has really encouraged me and has been a foundation of my personal mission, which is twofold. One is to make an impact, a lifetime impact on the people around me. As important as that is, it's also to leave no doubt in my wife, Joy, of my love for her, that I can love her as much as anybody loves me on this earth outside of the relationship with God. And that's my mission. And the great thing is I love having a mission and to accomplish something and also have measurements. So I find out how I'm doing with that by asking her. And once I ask her, then I ask the children. And by asking your wife or your children, you're going to find out exactly where you stand. And I think she would say, yes, Donald, I have no doubt of your love for me. And as a man in this world, you do not hear that often. So I would like to share my perspective, at least related to one of the important things. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason that that's one of my missions. I will say that's not always been my mission. We got married at 20. That's not been the most important thing in my relationship with my wife. It is now, but it wasn't always. I'm going to turn to Ephesians 3:8. If you have your Bibles, turn there. And brother, I don't know how long this will take. I'll keep it within the timeline, so I may skip through it and come back and get some points. This is a topic tonight that has formatted my life, and I've seen the rewards of what God's teaching, counsel, and direction in my life. I've seen the impact of that. I've seen the reward of that in family, and community, and friends. So I hope I can challenge each one of you a different perspective tonight. That really isn't different, but it probably is already part of how you go about your life. Ephesians 3:8. I don't think there's a greater miracle that God has done than a changed heart. From a heart of stone to a heart of flesh. I know for me, salvation, the time I became a Christian, to go from pure evil thoughts and desires to a heart of, yes, Lord. Man, that's amazing for each one of you. If you've had that moment in your life when you turn to God completely and fully. And the moment, if you can actually reflect upon the day, the time, if you can, I don't see that there's a greater miracle. That how He can change hearts of men and women. And complete changes. Whether you grew up in a Christian home and your actual flesh, your actions haven't really changed much, the outward actions. My children, thankfully, have grown up in a Christian home, and they would even say, my actions didn't necessarily change a whole lot. My testimony is a significant change. But the heart, the changing of the heart of a person is amazing to me. Because God, with the gift of salvation comes in 3:8, Ephesians 3:8, Paul's talking. Unto me, who am less than the least of all the saints, is this grace given, that I should preach among the Gentiles. What is he going to preach? The unsearchable riches of Christ. Unsearchable. Unsearchable. It's unmeasurable. It's not containable. It's the unsearchable riches of Christ. So put two things together. The moment of salvation and then what salvation brought. It brought the immeasurable, the unsearchable riches. We have those riches. They're not limited. They're not contained. They're not ordered up. They're unsearchable. I don't think we grasp that perspective sometimes. That's the cornerstone of my perspective. If you would pray for me as I'm really going to make a moment or a point now to study through Ephesians. And as I read through Ephesians, I am just lifted up, even though I've read through it several times, I'm really lifted up at the privilege we have to be in ministry. And when I say ministry, I don't necessarily mean a full-time ministry. I mean every day you go to work, that is ministry. Every day you get up and are choosing to be joyful or not, that's ministry. Every time you encourage your children, you encourage somebody in the Lord, that's ministry. That's a privilege. Miracle of salvation, unsearchable riches of Christ. Ministry is a privilege. When I think of the great transformations that we have through salvation, there's actually Ephesians 4:28. I'll just read that to you. I'll turn there. Going back to me, I came through a significant transformation from evil from darkness to light. Some of you may have had that. I'm not going to raise hands, so we're not going to go there. But some of you may not have. Some of you may say, I actually lived in a Christian home and I was taught God's Word. I just realized I needed a Savior. I knew I needed to change the heart. But I pretty much did the same things I did the day before. And I've heard my children's testimony. That amazes me. That blows me away. For somebody who came from a pretty big transformation from an atheist to a Christian, it blows me away that somebody lived in a righteous, at least outwardly righteous lifestyle where they don't have to deal with the after effects of living in a lifestyle that was against God. Outward lifestyle, at least. So 28 is a good example of what Paul is saying takes place. Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands, the thing which is good, that he may have to give to him that needeth. So here's somebody, like in our house, I was thinking about, some of you know our children, I'm not going to name names there either, but I was just thinking about one of the boys, how, he would steal food out of the pantry. And you just wonder, you see and he wasn't a good stealer either, because you go in there and he had wrappers, he'd get the candy bar out, eat the candy bar, and he'd leave the wrapper in the pantry. It was so aggravating to my wife and I. It's like, at least if you're going to steal it, do something with the wrapper. And leave it right there. Not only are you a thief, but you're not even a smart thief. And so, but can you imagine a heart that goes from, I'm going to steal something to, hey, I wonder if my sister would like this candy bar. Just that transformation of the heart. Doesn't matter whether it was a unique transformation or it was from an outward appearance or a simple dramatic change from the standpoint of somebody's heart went away from their desires to serving others. That just blows me away. And that's why it blows me away when I hear the stories. That somebody lived in that, they still have a need for salvation. And that transformation took place. And now they're living out it fully and completely without all of the junk that goes with not doing that. So as you look at your perspective on things, my perspective comes completely from an internal perspective. My wife and I get asked to counsel husbands and wives in different scenarios. And lots of times those times are set up for somebody's got a question of, well, how do I handle this? My answer always is, well, it depends what your perspective is. I can't answer that question. You just can't. Because it's so important for the husband, it's critical for the husband to be able to communicate to his wife the mission and the purpose of his life and their life. And it's so important for the wife to be able to understand that and support that mission and purpose. If you're not married, it's so important to live each day without a spouse, understanding your daily mission and purpose of your life. As a married couple, that whole decision about buying a van with leather seats or not leather seats, you can't answer that until you go, well, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of our marriage in light of our eternal perspective of we have unsearchable riches in Christ? That changes the whole game. Because when you look at life from an eternal perspective always, and you look at that as a husband I am to lead my wife in that outlining the mission and the vision and purpose for how we do things and why we do things. And then she is the critical piece of saying, this is how we're going to operate as one, as a married couple, in support, in prayer, and a little side, you can do that, a side benefit. But again, in some of my business mentoring, is I learned this lesson. And this reinforces, I think, what I'm going to say. Ultimately, I'm going to get to Nehemiah 6. And I'm nearsighted, so I can't see that clock back there.
Don't worry, we don't miss it anyway.
Okay. My best business counsel has been my wife. I have made the mistake of having situations and making decisions completely on my knowledge and my experience. Thinking wrongly that my wife has no ability to understand the facts and circumstances surrounding the decision could help with that, could give counsel. While in fact, she's the one uniquely gifted and put in place by God to give me that counsel, regardless of the facts and circumstances. So, does anybody watch baseball or play baseball? When you bat, if you were to bat 1,000, that means you're 10 for 10. That's a pretty good average. Probably a Hall of Fame. Probably not even possible. But in all of those business decisions, guess who's batting 1,000? Now the first 5, I ignored her advice and made a mistake, and they never worked out. And then from there, I said, God, you know what? There's only one person gifted in my life that knows exactly what our purpose is, and that God put in my life to pray over me so that she could support me and help give me counsel in situations where she knows none of the facts other than what I can communicate briefly. She's 100%. The things that she said, I wouldn't do that. I said, go ahead and did it. The area she goes, I don't. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you do that? Right here. She goes, I just don't feel good about that. That's never been wrong. So, as a business side, I've told that to somebody, but I said, that doesn't make sense. I go, God, that's the creativity and power of God. If she's faithfully praying over her husband in business, which is real important. So going back to the perspective, and everybody has their own story, they have their perspective in Christ, that impacts your personal mission and vision for what you do. It directly impacts the activities that you put in your life and how those activities impact your faith life. And this is really what I want to get to. This is critical. I'm going to go this direction a bit. Okay, Nehemiah chapter 6. So, as a challenge, I would say the biggest issue that I've seen for most people, including myself, have been the distractions I put in my life. And what I see on a routine basis with young men specifically, well, I'm going to say men, but I am around a lot of young men too, and so are the distractions they put in their lives that keep them from living out their faith walk to the best of their ability. As I'm going to just read a couple highlights here. I'll summarize it a little bit. I can read it. Nehemiah faced 3 key areas in chapter 6. I'm going to read over chapter 6. Read over chapter 6. And my family knows that at 35, I had a really significant significant time in my life where I was battling some struggles in it, and God really stepped in, and I was able to really make a dedicated commitment to my faith walk. And I tell people that I was a fraud for many years, from 20 to 35. I became a Christian significantly in my life at 16. Got involved in a church, the Baptist church in Georgia, and in a lot of the churches in the South, once you get in there for a few months and years and you smile a lot and you volunteer, you're kind of like in. So you're just like, well, that's valuable. And so we moved to a new area, and we did that, and we taught a parenting class because we had children. I guess that was the only, back then, the only requirement. And so I became really, really good at looking good in church. So I volunteered for a lot. I was involved I was on the pastor search committee, I was on the finance committee. I was even on the committee on committees of a large church. Had no idea there existed such a thing. Never opened my Bible. My Bible went on my dashboard, driving to church, going to the meetings, came back out, on the dashboard. Next Sunday, go to the meetings, so I came out. So from 20 to 35, my Christian walk was very weak. And if you're not in the Word, men, you're going to have a weak walk. There's nothing that replaces it, and there's nothing that being in the Word of God can give So as I was hitting that point in my life, I just had these sins in my life that I was struggling with. God really opened my eyes to that. And I realized, I'm just not following God the way that I should. And my wife was critical during that time because I was able to just comfort her and really communicate with her well and confess and prepare some things that were just going on. God opened my heart. I did not want to be a follower. As somebody that says they're a follower of Christ, then you're saying that's the most important thing in your life. And your life should indicate that. And your wife should be able to look at your life and say, yeah, he's a follower of Christ. If your wife can't do that, then there's a struggle. I say I'm a fraud because my wife couldn't do that. She couldn't say, he's a Christian. And that was very, very instrumental in me making a personal mission to leave no doubt in her life. So sometimes that diversity really helps increase and improve your life with God. What I did is I put a lot of distractions in my life. In Nehemiah, at the beginning, chapter 6, verse 1, now it came to pass when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arabian and the rest of our enemies heard that I builded the wall, and there was no breach left therein, though at the time I had not set up the doors upon the gates. And Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me, saying, Come, let us meet together in one of the villages in the plain of Ono, but they thought to do me mischief. So I'll do something right here. Verses 1 through 4, people are trying to lead Nehemiah away. They're trying to distract him. 5 through 9, untruths are said. They're facing untruths. And he responds to that. And then 10 through 14, they attempt to violate God's law. Again, I'm not going to read through all this. I encourage you to read through it tonight. But verse 4, yet they sent unto me 4 times after the sword, and I answered them after the same manner. You have to remove distractions. We put distractions in our life. I don't know what those distractions in your life are. Usually it's fantasy. Fantasy is anything that is not what is really going on in your day-to-day life. Fantasy, obviously, you've heard of pornography and dreaming. Fantasy in the U.S. could be politics. If they just change the president, or they change this, anything that distracts you. I remember listening to talk radio. Do they have talk radio? Not talk radio? Who listens to talk radio? I remember getting out of the car and I was angry. I was upset. And I walked out of the car and I said, why am I so mad? I was just listening to talk radio. And they got me. I said, this is crazy. That is manipulating my life because it's something I turned on. So one of my key encouragements to men is remove distractions completely. I say it so often, my daughter Macy made me a shirt that said, starve the distractions and feed the focus. Distractions will keep you from doing the things that God will allow you to do. I'm going to talk about some of the things that has helped me. So in business, distraction is business all about profits. Get a business, make $1 million, or whatever the goal is, and do this. That's a distraction. Today, the mission is to make a lifetime impact, eternal impact, and touch. Because of that, last month, or in January, we've, through business, through our work, we've do a daily devotion every day. We've got an office area set up as a chapel. We do a daily devotion. Everybody's invited to the mission choir. We come in and we read a devotion. That's not done much in business. We've handled funeral arrangements. We visited employees in jail, their families in jail. We've been in the hospital many times. We've offered support, financial support outside of the employment. Utility bills, car repairs, home repairs. We've been able to take families and help them move out of a situation into a better situation. We've touched this year about 20,000 people for the gospel in some way or fashion. We've added a chaplain to our company. We've got a full-time chaplain that his role, I don't even know, I've never seen him once a month. His primary role is to do nothing but reach out to every employee of the family every month. And that's why we're at the jail, we're at the hospital, we're at the funerals, we're at weddings. And their families, if there's a need there, we're there. It's sharing the gospel, it's touching them. I'm talking about God's creativity. So remove distractions. Eternal, the mission of your life, what is it? Teach it, share it with your wife. Do it together. Your family, your children, if you have children still with you, they should know that so that they can share it. So then you live that perspective out in all your decisions. You've got a why behind the what. Most people, most Christians do not understand why they do things. They cannot tell you why. Now that why isn't always good. The why might be, I'm just lazy and I got irritated and I just didn't want to deal with it. And that's wrong. That's why we can confess. But you got to know why. If you don't know why, then you're just walking through life. So as I was studying Nehemiah, he went through the first 4 verses. He removed distractions. No, I'm not going there. I am not doing that. I am not leaving where God has put me to do. That's part of that path. I am on this path. This is what I am going to do. I'm not going to put the distractions of this world, the distractions of my mind, the distractions of my desires in front of me, in my life. So I make decisions sometimes that seem odd, but they're to remove distractions. My wife and I simply organize our lives so that in business, in home, in community, in church, that we're focused. We're feeding that focus, making impact, lifetime impact on people. No doubt my wife, I love her. No doubt my children, that I love them. I want to raise them up. No doubt in employees that I'm a believer, that I want to trust to lead a company by a faith walk. No doubt I get up in the morning and that's my focus. No, I'm not going to get distracted with waking up and being irritable. I'm going to wake up and be joyful. That's a focus. So hopefully there's a smile on my face as soon as I get out of bed. You can choose not to. I've been there where I'm just be mean today. I don't know why. Well, I tell you, brothers and sisters, you can wake up and just say, I'm going to choose to be joyful. I don't care what happened last night. I don't care what's going on in my life. I choose to be joyful. Remove distractions. A lot of people choose to not be joyful. I tell you, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Second, 5 through 9, facing untruths. Oh, we get so sidetracked. And I love his response, verse 8. This is after they were going to share some things that were just untrue about Nehemiah. Then I sent unto him, saying, there are no such things done as thou sayest, but thou feignest them out to thine own heart. You must know why. You need to be able to hit a conflict dead on and be able to say, no, we don't do that. I don't do that. I'm not going down that path. I know that that's not something we would do. I know that, yes, that would be a blessing. We would love to do that. Remove distractions. Feed the focus. No, I'm not getting distracted. I know why. I know why. God's Word has taught me this is what's important to my life. This is the dynamic of why we do things. And 10 through 14, it really goes through, now they're asking them to come meet him in the temple. And he was not going to violate God's law. Verse 13, therefore was it hired that I should be afraid and do so in sin, that they might have matter of an evil report, that they might reproach me. My God, think thou upon Tobiah and Sanballat, according to these their works, and on the prophetess Noadiah and the rest of the prophets that would have put me in fear. Rivers of righteousness. Psalm 1, that's not in Psalm 1, but rivers of righteousness. I think about it in Isaiah. I love Psalm chapter 1. Just the steadfastness as a tree planted by the river. Remove distractions. Take those distractions away. Face the untruths by knowing why. And live in a life of righteousness. A river of righteousness. As I said, choose to be joyful in the morning. Was something on my heart. Yeah. But it's also, my life should be open. I have, and people ask me this, at my home, I've got a corner office with a window, and everybody said, well, put your computer like the other way. And I said, no, I want my computer facing the windows. When people walk by, they see what's on my computer. And you can see right into my computer. And there's times that things just come up, and I'm like, oh, no, somebody out there just, you open up an email or you do something, and then they go, oh. But I'd rather have it fully open before people, because I've struggled with that in the past. So I want this open, so I know it's open, so anybody can walk by at any time. And I want them to see that. The challenge is to remove distractions. What I've discovered is when you remove distractions from your life, you are able to clearly be still before God, and God will move in you like you've never moved. He will give you a clear picture of the direction you need to go and the decisions you need to make. So many men are distractions in their life, and they don't know what to do. Lots of times it's related to business, but it can be related to spouse and children. I believe we are gifted with a creativity from God that we suppress. We're talking about the medical side of things. My encouragement to you is, as you reflect on Ephesians 3:8, the riches of Christ are unsearchable, unmeasurable. And when you really play out the gospel in your life, and what that looks like all the way through the rest of eternity before God, you remove the distractions, you follow God's word in your life, you try to live out to the fullest of life. You ask God to show me how I can do things according to His will, for His glory. God's creativity will flourish. I mean, absolutely flourish. My wife kind of went through this stretch. She did have a Bible study every Thursday night. The third Thursday night of every month, she did it for 10 years. And ladies would come over there, and it was really sweet. But I noticed after about year 8, it was kind of, well, we're going to do Bible study, and I didn't get ready for it. It was her ministry. So it was real important. So we do this in ministry a lot. We establish things that are good, but we don't challenge ourselves to remove that and say, God, well, would you really have me do this? What will this church have me do with this community to make an impact for Christ? What will I do in my life when you say, I'm not going to just follow what we've always done, but I'm going to open my heart, my mind, and my body, my gifts to God's pushing and unction to move me? She was challenged, and she said, no, what if I don't do the Bible study? Well, some Baptist service and stuff, oh, you can't, that's not going to Sunday school or something. You just don't do those good things. But her heart was, her distractions away, her focus was, I want to make an impact on mothers. Wives and mothers, so that they understand clearly God's blessing upon them. They live a life directly for Him. We've homeschooled. We've got large families, so I know we're unique from that standpoint. But she's just trying to encourage that you can do this, whatever this is, in a way that honors your husband, supports him, and encourages the value of the mother in the home raising children and going and dedicating to that. So because of that, we kind of took the Bible study away. She said, well, what if I don't do this? She said, I could do a moms to moms outreach at our house. And you know what? One of our boys could teach the little boys how to build a birdhouse or something in the shop. And my daughter could do this. And you could just see the creativity was just, as soon as she challenged herself and we challenged each other, you could just see God working in her. She goes, I can do that. I'm actually going to use, we were kind of against technology a lot of times, but because you're so busy, I can send an email out and do that. We had 23 moms show up on a Friday and 80 children. And that's because she said, what if I don't do the house? And the 3 or 4 women that usually come don't. To over 100 impact. So in ministry, in this church here, in your lives, you may have part of your life where you could, God's creativity that He designed you, that you can specifically do, He put you in a specific place and purpose to do it. You may flourish. I don't know what that is. For my wife, this thing is just because she took a different, she really died to herself and just said, God, what would you have to do? Pray and start with prayer. And I know each one of you, in your story, you have part of your life that you maybe say, God, I'm willing, I don't know what that is. Show me what I can do. And that creativity to do amazing things will flourish and grow, and you'll impact a lot of people. You will impact a tremendous amount of people. For me, it was business. Use all of my business tools to impact the community. And so, we've done marriage conferences. We brought in, had a weekend marriage conference. We brought in an evangelist to the business. All employees are invited the community. So if one person shows up or 300 show up, that was God's. When I removed the distractions and said, God, what can we do with the resources you've given us? He's allowed us, the family, the business, to open up our home. We struggled with, some of you may be gifted, we struggled with having a family over once a quarter. So, sounds like a great thing. It sounds sweet. We just struggled with it. I don't know, can we have one family over to get to know them a quarter? That sounds real easy. We tried for like 6 quarters and we did it 2 times out of 6. That's just terrible. But God gifted us with, what if we open our home to whoever wants to come to have a meal with us? We'll sing hymns, we'll do testimony, we'll play volleyball. Now, I'm going to say that volleyball draws people, but when there's volleyball and young people, it tends to draw a lot more people, by the way. But so we might have 200 people come to our house 6 straight Saturdays in June during the summer. And we do that, and we play volleyball. I should say or they play volleyball. We have a meal. We have a testimony time, really sweet testimony. Then we sing hymns together. This past Saturday, I signed up an email out one early Saturday and say, hey, we're gonna dedicate tonight, we're just gonna come to the office and sing prayers. And we had just the sweetest fellowship, we sang 12 hymns. And see, I excited my family, the children were so excited about it. My wife was excited. We had people show up. We had some, kind of like looking at you. There's time, you have people come to something and they just, what time of it you go? I don't know if they're really liking this or really hating this. Joy had one of the ladies there, she got done and she said, yeah, Mrs., I don't think she liked it. She didn't say a single word. She left right away. I was done. Is anybody better than one of those when that happens? You can never tell how God is working in somebody's heart by their perception. Never. Things that you think would just really speak to somebody will fall flat. Things that you don't think they ever speak to somebody. There's only one lady that emailed back, and what she appreciated it was a lady that didn't have an expression and asked questions and left as soon as she could. And she was the one that said how great it was. So you never know God's creative design. Just be obedient to it. So I'm not saying that anything other than I was that guy, that person, as excited as I was to be a follower of Christ, I didn't really follow Christ well. And when I did and made a decision to really not be a fraud anymore, really dedicate my life to Him, I still had all these distractions. And so I would put, my life was still compartmentalized, and well, ministry looks this way. But when I was able to say, God, I don't know really what to do, what can I do, and follow Him, and allow God to speak to me. A lot of my prayer time is not me talking. Actually, very rarely. It's just me listening. Be still and let the Lord touch your eyes. And God will put things on my heart. I don't know if I can do that. And it might be, hey, call Billy today. Just see how it's doing. Okay, I'll do that. And Billy's like, I have a question that you need to hear from me. I don't know if anybody has experienced that. So as God was teaching me these things, I wanted to live fully for Him. And Joy and I have just been able to be encouraged by God's creative power. His riches are unsearchable. They're unmeasurable. And in your life, you are able to impact thousands of people potentially through what God can use you for. You just have to get away from what you normally do sometimes. Don't be complacent with it. Really expect God to use His creativity through you with your gifts. And in this community right here, you've got such a difficult community, but a great opportunity. I don't think there's other believers in this community, not many of them, that are really praying over, God, what can you do? What can you do creatively through me? Move my characters. God, let me go forward. That would be amazing to see. I have no idea what that is. In your quiet times, in your prayer time, ask God what you can do in your home, in your church, in your business for that. For me, He was able to really identify a purpose in a lot of the things we do in business that through God's direction and His grace, it's just showing us. The reason we're doing business in Canada is we want to impact Canada for Christ. We want to impact Mexico for Christ. In doing that, you have to have a healthy business because you have to have bills, right? So we're trying to figure out how to do that well, too. And we're supporting missionaries and ministries around the world, trying to do that, trying to be faithful with that. So remove distractions. Allow God's creative spirit to move within you to accomplish things. To not get... Sometimes we perceive or we are right or wrong in saying, I don't know if I can work well with other people in this area. I would just say, remove that. In Ephesians 3, 4 actually. I love this short verse. I hope you remember it tomorrow. Ephesians 4, 27. Very, very short verse. Read it a couple times and it won't go away. Neither give place to the devil. Don't allow your personal preferences to give place to the devil. In ministry, in your life, sometimes we cut people off because either we don't like them, we don't get along with them. This can be to me. I mean, I'm talking to myself. Or, whatever, they just irritate us. Don't give place for the devil. Work with people. The last thing I just want to share is in Romans 15, 22 and 29, as I remove distractions, really fed the focus, pushed towards God, as I hold my barriers down, God using me in different parts of ministry, through business, through home, through family, through church. He did great mighty things. The last thing is we have to plan in uncertainty, in times of uncertainty. So planning is really when you know the things are going to happen. You're planning to go to the grocery store and buy certain things. And planning is good. I'm a long-term strategic thinker. I like to plan. I like to have plans in place. I like I'm a plan freak. But what's your plan for uncertain times? Do you have to remove distractions, kind of creative spirit? Plan for uncertain times. What happens next week? What happens 2 weeks from now? What happens if I think we're scared to get into uncertain times and think about and plan through how we can use God's creativity, God's power through those times. I'll give you an example for me, and this may not be the best example. But I was reading, I've studied a little bit about robots. Is anybody involved with robots at all? I'm not really involved with them, but I was like, well, what if our business, instead of employees going out to the field, what if we got robots? What if we became the first company to have a team of robots go out? Well, it's pretty innovative, that kind of technology. Robots. And then I got depressed because I'm like, well, what's the world going to be like with robots? And don't Google robots, because what they actually are making them for is pretty scary. And then Joy and I, we love that. We got a little farm, a little mini farm, and we love that old time, 1800s lifestyle, romantic feeling. It probably wasn't romantic in the 1800s, but we kind of like that. Because it just seems wholesome, right? You're kind of in control. But when you start thinking about technology, robotics, drones, one of my sons loves drones, and manpower drones now, and artificial intelligence. And so when we read all these futurists, they are. That's what, when you have uncertain times, that's what it's called, futurist. And I just got a little depressed. God spoke to me. Oh, he said, "No, I put you specifically here at this time to be a light in these type of situations. That is your role." And as an adult, you don't necessarily think about your life. 50, so you don't necessarily think about your life as much as you do. Well, what about Mercy? She's 5. What is she going to be up against in 30 years? Has anybody ever thought that? It's like, well, what do we do if we have another baby? And so I'm planning for those uncertain times. How are we a light in situations like that? Romans 15, I'll read this. This is amazing to me. The actual text is 22 to 29. But Paul was talking about the trip he wanted to take in an uncertain time of his life. And I prefer when a sweet sermon to me is when we're expositionally going through chapter, so I don't have that because I love just going verse by verse by verse. But in the context of tonight, I think this is just what's on my heart. 15:22. This is actually 24. Whenever I take my journey into Spain, I will come to you, for I trust to see you in my journey and to be brought on my way thitherward by you. If first I be somewhat filled with your company. I circle trust there. Trust to see you. So as a leader in your life, as a leader plans for uncertain times, what is your plan? What do you trust you will do in a certain event? And God just spoke to me and said, I trust you to be a light. I specifically put you in this time. I put you in the Spanish Inquisition time, the Roman Colosseum times. I specifically put you with drones and AI and everything else to make an impact. So that really encouraged me. I just want to close with a couple of things. What time is it? Okay. That means you're late for things. So that's colder. Finish up. No, I can't share tonight all of what really God has put in my heart and has shown me, other than wherever you put intention, give attention. My things around. So my encouragement I leave you with is in your faith walk, wherever you're at, seek to have the proper eternal perspective. Remove distractions. Be creative. Not to be creative because you're creative. Be creative because what God can use you for. Plan for the uncertainty times that are before us. As we approach things, plan for how you can impact others for others. How you can lead others. How you can serve others. Is there preppers? Is that, people know what preppers are? Is preppers? People now that's the thing they speak is they are ready for catastrophe. And I keep saying every week I'm gonna go get some water and put it in 5 gallon bucket and store it. And they tell me, well, you can't just store it in a bucket, you gotta do things to it. You don't get animals. In the US they said that. And get these things. But it amazes me the discipline to follow through on stuff. And that is encouraging me. And so God is actually even working with that. He's prepared for what if you can help in it. And we've had a hurricane come through recently. We've had different things in Georgia. So it's like, are you going to serve other people if you can't even take care of yourself? And that's just another example of how God's working with me. But I'm just going to close with this church has such an opportunity in this community and with each other to be an encouragement as a husband, father, leader, as a wife, mother, as a supporter, as children. If you're single, what impact you make to family, friends, community. It will only happen if you're able to ask God to use you greatly. And if you're struggling with burdens in your life, the ability to remove those distractions and just focus on God is a very rewarding, encouraging time for others because they get to see you work through those. So I'm going to close with prayer and then I'll come back over. Father God, I just pray for each individual here, God, as we have together walked through some things, God, that has spoken to me, God, and I've seen the impact of many, many people. I pray that you equip this church either in support or directly for each person to ask you how they can serve and serve well. Not only each other, but those outside of the church, those in their community. I pray for the marriages, God. Oh, God, we just have a culture of marriages that are not strong. God, I pray that you just strengthen these marriages, God. That you give them a focus on each other through your word, through your spirit, to live faithfully with you and each other so that they may impact their children and their children may impact their children for the gospel. I pray this in Jesus' name.